covered in the northern of Block 6, and instead of PDO developing the same?
You are half right and half wrong.
Correctly.
First of all, only Shell and Total, not other international companies. We did invite others, but they did not succeed in their bidding. So the whole idea was to explore what we call Greater Barrick, which is a formation that we thought extends outside Block 61. And we wanted to test the theory that, indeed, geological theory, that there are untapped resources outside Block 61. So we gathered the information and we invited companies, and they proved, or they agreed with us, that there could be some potential of large volumes of gas, explored gas, not discovered gas. Yes. And they gave us their proposals, and the consortium of Shell and Total was the most successful. But what we decided to do different this time, and this is what your question is, I think, is we wanted an integrated solution to our gas development, not just finding gas and producing gas and the government buys the gas and then we decide what to do with the gas. This time we are testing a new concept where you go find gas, develop it, and potentially use it all the way. So we don't put anything from the government in terms of capital. And as you know, capital is getting less and less these days. And raising capital is becoming more and more difficult. That's one reason, yes. And really, the idea was we invited all these companies and asked them, what can you do in Oman with our gas? So we want really to encourage them to come up not only with solution and not only with capital, but with industries that will contribute in solving some of our major challenges that I think the country faces.
Such as?
Employment, yes. So creating of jobs was one of a major criteria in this philosophy of not letting PDO do it as we used to. Yes, PDO don't create jobs when they find gas. Yeah, we have to find users of that gas that can create jobs and can create industries. And if we do that, then we face that issue of raising capital and borrowing and so on. So we said maybe there's a better way, and history will prove whether we were right or wrong. I think it's a right way of doing it. Philosophy of privatization in Oman is nothing new. So government owns and they sell, and this is exactly what Oman Oil is doing. Oman Oil joined hands with BP to develop Kazan, and they had a stake of 40%. And we decided, why can't we sell 10, get money, and do something else instead of just locking that resources in one place. I think it's been a very good experiment. The response from the international market is very good. And we are now evaluating the bids that we received on this 10%. And the numbers so far that we have had and seen are encouraging.
When do you see you closing the deal on selling 10%?
It's a longish process. First we need to evaluate.
Okay.
Then we need to discuss with BP. I think they have first right of refusal. So we tell them that Fatma wants to buy 10% and she's offering this much. BP will say, don't sell it to Fatma. We will give you what Fatma is offering you, yeah?
Okay.
And we'll come back to you and say sorry, yeah, because legally this is the situation. We don't think BP will exercise that right. We have selected these bidders very careful, that we can all work together, and so that's not a problem. But the process will take long, maybe a month or two. Yeah. Other than that, we will close this before end of the year, definitely. Yes.
Are there any other cases where Oman Oil will be selling any of its shares, assets?
Yes, we may sell Oman Oil shares of Block 9, where Occidental is operating. We also have 45% there as Oman Oil, and Occidental have 55%.
Okay.
And we have a Japanese company, just if you
a
minority 5%. So we may also sell 10% of that, but we will see.
So it's not that Oman Oil is selling its complete shares; it's just a
small portion. Yeah, because we need to fund some other projects that are in the pipeline for Oman Oil, the petrochemical, the refinery project in Duqm and so on.
So as I can see that the ministry or the whole sector is depending less and less on the state budget and the Ministry of Finance, and trying to find other ways to finance its investments and operations, correct?
Correct. Expenditure next year for the sector, I think is going to be much higher. We're starting new projects. We're starting a $6 billion project in Duqm refinery. That's something that's a new baby in our portfolio, so that will really push the investment level much higher. Of course, we're not spending all $6 billion next year, but a good chunk of that expenditure will start next year, and then the following maybe another 3 years until commissioning of the plant. We have 2 projects in Salalah, nearly $1 billion that we have already started, but the expenditure of those projects will really be next year, a good chunk of it. These are the downstream projects. Upstream, we are very bubbling, to be honest with you, and I use the word bubble very carefully here because it's gas. So gas will see a lot of money being channeled as a sector from hopefully the likes of Shell and Total in development of this Greater Barik area, both in exploration and development. PDO plans are intact for upstream development, business as usual. We have some exciting ongoing projects for next year. So I think next year, as a sector, we are going to see huge growth. I can't give you a number, I don't have it, but I've listed where the money will go. A quick, unscientific estimate, study if you like, conducted by PDO, they estimate that we can easily save 30% of energy, and 30% of energy to me is 30% of gas that we are burning every day, either through industrial projects or power and water.
Okay. How can you save the 30%?
If I can convince you to switch off your lights, you will make a contribution towards that 30%. We need really education as a country. We need to change. We need some legislation. For example, we need to prohibit sales of the old type of bulbs. If we can use LED, there's a huge saving opportunity there. As I said, air conditioning, appliances. We had a team from Japan just this week giving us, or sharing with us their experience on how much energy they have saved as a country. And I think we need to start that, and we intend to do that really seriously next year.
As the ministry?
As a country. And my interest really is, as you put it in your question, because if we can save, forget about the 30% is very ambitious. If we can save 10%, we are currently consuming, just to give you some numbers, about 50 million cubic meters of gas every day. If we save 10% of that, it means we are saving 5 million cubic meters of gas. A 5 million cubic meter of gas can run or can support development of a new fertilizer project bigger than UMIFCO. Yes. So it's the kind of, or we can generate another 2,000 megawatts almost of power. So you can see how serious this saving philosophy, if we really take it as a country. But we need everyone, every household, every citizen and resident in the country to join with us in this drive. And I think it's something that we can all benefit individually. If you save electricity, guess what? Your electricity bill is going to be less, so you can have more money to spend on something that you like. If we can come up with legislation and say Oman now will only accept air conditions that are selling in the market that has a minimum temperature of not less than 23 degrees. So even if you want to dial that thermostat to 19, you cannot do it. Yes, that is what many countries have done. Yes. Another one is labeling. When you go to buy your next toaster or kettle or whatever appliance, home appliance, if there is a label there which says this appliance consumes 200 bases per hour of electricity, in bases, not in kilowatt hour, that very few of us really understand what it means, yes? In something that any consumer, and I'm going to have a discussion with the consumer protection, for example, and so on. I think this is something that we should demand now as a society. Like when we go to supermarket, you look at ingredients, how much sugar, the can of tuna that you're buying, and oil, and so on. You have a choice to look at calories. You have a choice to see how much cholesterol it's in there, or how much water they've added in your olive oil or whatever. Why can't we do the same with energy? Yeah. That's one. Another thing that I'm really excited is to introduce a new specialization. In addition to journalists, we want to have energy specialists as a career, as a specialization, as a requirement. Yes. So, for example, I'm going to try and have energy engineer for every ministry, that somebody will be just in charge of managing the energy for that building, or that ministry. Yeah? And I think if we can get young graduates to take this line, and unfortunately they have to be technical graduates, and we can train them to just manage the energy used. And definitely every industry should have an energy expert, energy conservation specialist. Yeah. Not only we are going to create additional jobs, a few hundred, but we are going to give those organizations, whether ministry or private companies or private industries, give them opportunity to save energy and to save energy expenditure as well. And all this will result in that goal of 30% savings of energy.
Okay, going back to the point where you say that we are going to train them. Whom do you mean by we? Is it the Ministry of Oil and Gas, or are you taking the muscle or the hat of the National Training Fund?
The government will come up with a scheme. National Training Fund will be very proud to train young people to do that kind of job. There are international organizations. There's a drive now to conserve more energy. You can be philosophical to save the world, less carbon prints, less carbon dioxide, and there are really some organization in the world that will help us.
Okay.
So I don't have details.
It's about the usage of coal to produce or generate power. There is a proposal for a coal plant in Duqm. How do you see, or where do you see the justification for such a plant? And is it true that Oman would rather or would be willing to use coal to save some gas when it comes to generating power?
I will answer as a person, as an Omani. I think we should not rely 100% of our energy generation from gas. That's risky. There's something called energy mix that we don't have yet. There is very encouraging news on renewable. That we are going renewable, and there is a target of certain percentage, 10% I heard as a number, to go renewable. But renewable, you need a backup. So renewable will save gas, but you have the generating capacity, or you must have it as a backup in case there's no sun, or at night, in case you cannot store enough energy. So we need to continue to allocate generation and to allocate that gas that will be used in case the renewable is not available for whatever reason. Because so far we're looking at two, as you know, solar and wind. And there are calm days, and there's a night time where there's no sun, or maybe there are times when there's no sun even during daytime. It doesn't happen very often here. So to put a coal in our energy mix, I think is something that almost everyone in the world is doing it.
Will be the second in the Gulf itself.
Yes, and our neighbors have started, but that's not the reason why we want to do it. But it's a sensible thing to do it, provided it's economically wise to do it.
Okay.
Yes. From where I come from, I look at two things. One, it has to be environmentally acceptable, so there is no pollution in Oman. I cannot address the CO2 emission, but I can address what we call NOx and SOx, the nitrogen oxides, and sulfur oxides. That we can address it. There's something called clean coal technology, that if we go coal, we have to insist on using that, so that doesn't pollute the air that me and you will be breathing after the coal power plant is built, and others as well. So I support it, provided, as I said, it makes economic sense. The coal price, coal is abundant, it's available everywhere, and the price is, I think it's attractive comparing to gas right now.
Sure.
Yeah. And it will give us an opportunity to allocate some volume of gas for industries that will generate more jobs. So I think I support studying it, and I think the electricity sector is studying it, and they will present their findings on the full story of coal.